Famous people who passed away in 1792. Before we proceed, please subscribe to our channel to support us. Henry Lawrence. He was born in March 1724 and he died in December 1792. His age was 68 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was an American founding father, merchant, slave trader, and rice planter from South Carolina who became a political leader during the Revolutionary War. A delegate to the Second Continental Congress, Lawrence succeeded John Hancock as its president. He was a signatory to the Articles of Confederation and as president presided over its passage. George Mason. He was born in December 1725 and he died in October 1792. His age was 66 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was an American anti-federalist and a founding father who refused to sign the United States Constitution. He is best known for authoring the Virginia Declaration of Rights, which influenced the Bill of Rights. John Paul Jones. He was born in July 1747 and he died in July 1792. His age was 45 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was interstitial nephritis. He was a Scottish-born American naval officer who served in the Continental Navy during the American Revolutionary War, often referred to as the father of American Navy. Jones is regarded by several commentators as one of the greatest naval commanders in the military history of the United States. Sir Joshua Reynolds. He was born in July 1723 and he died in February 1792. His age was 68 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a prominent English painter and the first president of the Royal Academy. He is considered one of the most influential portrait painters of the 18th century. George Horne. He was born in November 1730 and he died in January 1792. His age was 61 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was an English theologian known for his conservative views and his strong defense of the Church of England. He was a prolific writer, and his most famous work is his commentary on the Psalms. Leopold II, Holy Roman Emperor. He was born in May 1747 and he died in March 1792. His age was 44 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was the Holy Roman Emperor from 1790 to 1792. He is known for his attempts to reform the Holy Roman Empire and to address the growing revolutionary movements in Europe. Jean Godin des Odonais. He was born in July 1713 and he died in March 1792. His age was 78 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a French cartographer and naturalist. For 15 years, he explored Cayenne and the Brazilian Guiana, north of the Amazon, and collected nearly 7,000 species of plants. From 1765 till 1773, he explored the Amazon. Angelo Emo. He was born in January 1731 and he died in March 1792. His age was 61 at the time of his death, and he died after a brief illness. He was a Venetian noble, administrator, and admiral. He is notable for his reforms of the Venetian navy and his naval campaigns, being regarded as the last great admiral of the Venetian Republic. Robert Allen. He was born in July 1728 and he died in March 1792. His age was 63 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a British neoclassical architect, interior designer, and furniture designer. He was the son of William Adam, Scotland's foremost architect of the time, and trained under him. With his older brother, John, Robert took on the family business, which included lucrative work of the Board of Ordnance. After William's death, John Stuart, 3rd Earl of Bute, he was born in May 1730 and he died in March 1792. His age was 78 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a British nobleman who served as the Prime Minister of Great Britain from 1762 to 1763 under King George III. He became the first Troy to hold position and was arguably the last important role favourite in British politics. He was also the first Prime Minister from Scotland. Louis Antonio Verdi, he was born in July 1713 and he died in March 1792. His age was 78 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a Portuguese philosopher, theologian, and pedagogue, and as Estrangerado, Verdi is sometimes called the most important figure of the Portuguese Enlightenment. King Gustav III of Sweden, he was born in January 1746 and he died in March 1792. His age was 46 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was assassination. He was a king of Sweden from 1771 until his assassination in 1792. He was the eldest son of King Adolf Frederick and Queen Louise of Sweden. Gustav was a vocal opponent of what he saw as the abuse of political privileges seized by the nobility since the death of King Charles XII. Sir George Pocock, he was born in March 1706 and he died in April 1792. His age was 86 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a British admiral who served in the Royal Navy during the 7 Years' War. He is best known for his role in the Battle of Cuddalore. In 1738, he was promoted to post captain and granted command of the 12-gun HMS Aldborough. James Sykes, he was born in 1725 and he died in April 1792. His age was 66 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was an American lawyer and politician from Dover, in Kent County, Delaware. He served in the Delaware General Assembly and was a Continental Congressman from Delaware. He was appointed judge of the High Court of Errors and Appeals of Delaware in 1729 and served until his death later that year. Maximilian Hell, he was born in May 1720 and he died in April 1792. His age was 71 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a Hungarian astronomer and cartographer. He is known for his work on celestial mechanics and his contributions to the field of cartography. Carl Friedrich Barth, he was born in August 1741 and he died in April 1792. His age was 50 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was an unorthodox German Protestant biblical scholar and theologian and polemicist, controversial during his day. He is sometimes considered an enfant terrible and one of the most immoral characters in German learning. John Montague, 4th Earl of Sandwich, he was born in November 1718 and he died in April 1792. His age was 73 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a British statesman who succeeded his grandfather, Edward Montague. He held various military and political offices during his life, including Postmaster General, First Lord of Admiralty, and Secretary of State for the Northern Department. He is also known for the claim that he was the inventor of the sandwich. John Stevens. He was born in 1715 and he died in May 1792. His age was 77 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a prominent colonial American landowner, merchant and politician. With his brother Richard, he owned mercantile vessels and commanded them on voyages. Between 1739 to 1743, he was a large landowner in the New Jersey, and he owned a copper mine at Rocky Hill that was later abandoned. Chauvelot Simon Favart. He was born in November 1710 and he died in May 1792. His age was 81 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a French playwright and theatre director. The Salle Favart in Paris is named after him. His first success in literature was a poem about Joan of Arc, which obtained a prize of the Académie des Jeux Fourreux. He provided many pieces anonymously for the lesser theatres. George Brydges Rodney. He was born in February 1718 and he died in May 1792. His age was 74 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a British naval officer. He is best known for his commands in the American War of Independence, particularly his victory over the French at the Battle of the Saints in 1782. It is often claimed that he was the commander to have pioneered the tactic of breaking the line. John Burgoyne. He was born in February 1722 and he died in August 1792. His age was 70 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a British military officer, playwright and politician who sat in the British House of Commons. As a member of the British Army, he first saw action during the 7 Years' War, when he participated in several battles, most notably during the Spanish invasion of Portugal in 1762. Duke Ferdinand of Bern's reign. Wolfenbüttel. He was born in January 1721 and he died in July 1792. His age was 71 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a German military officer, best known for his participation in the 7 Years' War. From 1757 to 1762, he led an Anglo-German army in western Germany, which successfully repelled French attempts to capture Hanover. Richard Hancorne. He was born in 1754 and he died in July 1792. His age was 38 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a British Royal Navy officer, serving during the late 18th century. Upon joining HMS Melampus, Hancorne provoked the anger of midshipmen by handing out harsh and unfair punishments for the minor transgressions. René Nicolas Charles Augustin de Maupeou. He was born in February 1714 and he died in July 1792. His age was 78 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a French lawyer, politician, and Chancellor of France, whose attempts at reform signaled the failure of enlightened despotism in France. He is best known for his efforts to destroy the system of parliaments, which were powerful regional courts in 1740, in 1770 to 1774. Richard Arkwright. He was born in December 1732 and he died in August 1792. His age was 59 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was an English inventor, a leading entrepreneur during the early Industrial Revolution. He is credited as the driving force behind the development of the spinning frame known as the water frame, after it was adapted to use water power, and he planted a rotary carding engine to convert raw cotton to cotton lab prior to spinning. Frederick North, Lord North, he was born in April 1732 and he died in August 1792. His age was 60 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a British politician who served as Prime Minister of Great Britain during the American Revolutionary War. He is known for his handling of the American colonies, which led to the American Revolution. Marie-Thérèse Louise of Savoy. She was born in September 1749 and she died in September 1792. Her age was 42 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was murder. She was a member of Savoy Carignano Cadet branch of the House of Savoy. She was married at the age of 17 to Louis Alexandre de Bourbon-Penthièvre, Prince de Lamballe, the heir of the greatest fortune in France. Charles de Bancourt. He was born in July 1758 and he died in September 1792. His age was 34 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a French statesman and minister to Louis XVI. He was Louis XVI's last minister of war and organized the defense of the Tuileries Palace during the 10th August attack, commanded by the Legislative Assembly to send away the Swiss guards. He refused and was arrested for treason to the nation and sent to Orleans to be tried. August Gottlieb Spangenberg. He was born in July 1704 and he died in September 1792. His age was 88 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a German theologian, minister, and bishop of the Moravian Church, a successor to Nicolas Zinzendorf as bishop of the Moravian Church. He helped develop and lead international Moravian missions in colonial-era province of Pennsylvania and stabilized Moravian theology and organization. Adam Gottlob Moltke. He was born in November 1710 and he died in September 1792. His age was 81 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a Danish statesman who served as the Prime Minister of Denmark, Norway. He is known for his reforms of the Danish government and his efforts to modernize the country. George Browne. He was born in June 1698 and he died in February 1792. His age was 94 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was an Irish general who served in the British Army. He is known for his role in the 7 Years' War and the American Revolutionary War, a Catholic and a Jacobite. Browne, like several of his other relations, sought scope for his ambition in a foreign military career. Sophie Charlotte Ackerman. She was born in May 1714 and she died in October 1792. Her age was 78 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was undisclosed. She was a German actress from Berlin. She entered the stage in 1740 and established her own troupe in 1741, who failed in 1744. She left the stage for 3 years. In 1749, she married Konrad Ackermann in Moscow. They left Russia in 1751 and founded the famous Ackermann troupe. Anders Rudolf Dürrenmatt. He was born in February 1722 and he died in October 1792. His age was 70 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a Swedish count, lieutenant general, Commander Grand Cross of Order of the Sword, county governor, and politician. From 1760 onwards, he concentrated more on politics, becoming an outstanding member of the Caps faction, and elected to the Secret Committee in 1760 and 1765. Guillaume Lejonty, he was born in September 1725 and he died in October 1792. His age was 67 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a French astronomer who discovered several nebulae and was appointed to the Royal Academy of Sciences. He made unsuccessful attempts to observe the 1761 and 1769 transits of Venus from India. Paul Möhring, he was born in July 1710 and he died in October 1792. His age was 82 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a German physician and naturalist who is known for his work on the classification of animals. He is considered as one of the founders of modern zoology. John Smeaton, he was born in June 1724 and he died in October 1792. His age was 68 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was stroke. He was an English civil engineer responsible for the design of bridges, canals, harbors, and lighthouses. He was also a capable mechanical engineer and an eminent physicist. He was the first proclaimed civil engineer and is often regarded as the father of civil engineering. Samuel Horne, he was born in February 1745 and he died in November 1792. His age was 47 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was an English explorer, fur trader, author, and naturalist. He was the first European to make an overland excursion across northern Canada to the Arctic Ocean, specifically to Coronation Gulf, via the Coppermine River. Marie-Jeanne Recoubini, she was born in October 1713 and she died in December 1792. Her age was 79 at the time of her death, and the reason for her death was undisclosed. She was a French actress and writer who is known for her novels and plays. She is considered one of the most important female writers of the 18th century. She obtained a small pension from the crown, but the revolution deprived her of it, and she died in Paris on 7th December 1792 in great poverty. Joseph Martin Krauss, he was born in June 1756 and he died in December 1792. His age was 36 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was tuberculosis. He was a German-Swedish composer in the classical era who was born in the Holy Roman Empire. He moved to Sweden at the age of 21 and died at the age of 36 in Stockholm. He has been referred to as the Swedish Mozart and had a lifespan very similar to Mozart's. Hugh Pigot, he was born in May 1722 and he died in December 1792. His age was 70 at the time of his death, and the reason for his death was undisclosed. He was a British Royal Navy officer. He commanded at York at the reduction at Louisbourg and commanded Royal William at the capture of Quebec in September 1759 during the 7 Years' War. He went on to serve as Commander-in-Chief of the Leeward Islands station during the American Revolutionary War and then became the first naval lord. Thanks for watching the video. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel. Have a nice day.